Hey, welcome to the DBC Inc. Facebook Live, YouTube Live, the PD Thursday PD. I am here with a special guest all the way from New York. So we're going California to New York today. I'm in San Diego and he is in New York, and it is Jesse Lubinsky. Jesse is a DBC Inc. author extraordinaire, a co-author of Reality Bites and the esports education playbook, something I want to chat with him about a little bit today. And he's got a bunch of stuff for us. Jesse, thank you so much for joining us.
I'm not going to lie. I'd rather be in San Diego right now.
I understand this, but I think you guys are doing okay there right now. Yeah.
It's getting warm. It's getting nice, but super happy to be here. Really excited. Love watching these every Thursday. So I love, getting a chance to watch some of the amazing authors from the DBC family talk. And I'm really honored that I get to do the same.
Very cool. Kristen, hello. Kristen's already popping in. Thank you so much for joining us. So I've noticed that every Thursday just seems to be amazing. So that means the pressure's on you.
I hope I'm up to it.
I'm sure that you are. So, Jesse, first of all, why don't you give us an idea about what you do right now, what your current context is, and what you're up to?
Sure. So I've been in education for almost 20 years. About half of that as a teacher, half as in director of technology and innovation for a public school district. And now I am the chief learning officer for Ready Learner One, which we are an innovative learning solutions provider. And I'm excited that I actually have 2 books out with DBC. Both came out in 2020. So it was, as you mentioned, Reality Bites and the Esports Education Playbook. And I'm currently working on a third with 3 incredible co-authors, Jessica Williams, Faye Ellis, and a high school senior, Jasmine Antonucci, who is so amazing. We can't wait to share her amazing story and some of the work she's done. And I'm excited to get to talk about it today.
Very cool. All right, so let's start there. Did you just say that you are going to be co-authoring a book with someone who is in high school?
I did. And actually, I feel like we're almost piggybacking on her work because she showed us, she had basically written a book for kids on inventing mindsets, like just how to get kids to invent and create. And as we were reading this through, we were like, oh, so this is based on like the design thinking model. And she's like, what's that? And we're like, oh, she basically discovered design thinking by accident without knowing it. And so we realized, we probably could help her magnify the work she was doing and get this out not just to students, which is who she designed the work for, but to educators as well. And so we're really excited to be able to help amplify her story and her voice.
Yeah, that's so cool. So we have a couple student authors then. So we have Ashley Savage, who wrote I Want to Be a Lot, right? And then now we have this one. We're excited for this book too. And it's so incredible to see someone at that age being that prolific and that creative, and to get a chance to amplify their voice and put it out in the world. We're pretty pumped about that. So
it's totally excited.
Yeah. I saw, thank you, Debbie, for popping in here. I see Tara's popped in. I'm under a little pressure too, because I'm sitting in Tara's seat tonight. And so Tara's always very amazing at this. And so, I can't possibly live up to her energy, but I'm going to try. Kimberly's here. Thank you for joining us. Lisa, thank you so much for joining us. We really appreciate that. Now, the Reality Bites book, that is on AR and VR and their use in the classroom. And then the esports book, obviously, of course, is on esports. One of the things I wanted to ask you about or mention is that esports is kind of coming into my life a little bit during the pandemic too, in this way. Since the pandemic, one of the esports that's taken off is chess, actually, oddly enough. And chess streaming has become huge. And some of the biggest streamers on Twitch, for example, are chess players. And YouTube, then it goes up on YouTube and all this, and it's getting like just incredible views. And some of the chess players are now being snapped up by some of the big esports teams. Like I was just looking at one of them is Hikaru Nakamura, who's a grandmaster, one of the top players in the world, and TSM signed him. Which is a big player in the esports world. So I'm starting to see some esports infiltrate into my world of chess.
For those of our viewers right now who aren't really sure what esports is, when we're talking about esports, all we're talking about is competitive video gaming. So when we're talking about competitive chess in esports or a gaming setting, that's exactly what we're talking about is esports. And I don't think people realize how pervasive esports has already become in popular culture and just the world our kids live in. If you actually go to ESPN.com and look up at the top where there's Major League Baseball and the NBA and the NFL, esports is right there. Viewership for some of the esports championships was actually bigger than the Super Bowl. So this is something our kids are totally living right now every day. And, it's hard to find a student or even an adult who doesn't go on their phone and play a game or do something, right?
Yeah, absolutely. And so at the risk of everyone tuning out and thinking that I'm just absolutely and completely insane, like I watch chess online. Like I watch these tournaments are on. I'm excited. Some of them are rapid. There's different time controls, whether it's like speed chess, whether it's rapid play. That can be often like a game in 30 minutes. Speed chess can be a game in 5 minutes or 3 minutes each side, or even more of the classical games. We just had the candidates tournament, which was played to determine who's going to challenge Magnus Carlsen for the World Championship in November. And I'm getting up in the morning and I'm sitting there brushing my teeth, and I got the analysis open on YouTube. I'm watching it live as they're going over, and they've got commentators, just like you're watching a basketball game or like you're watching a football game. They're saying like, "Oh, I can't believe this. Look, he's left the e-file completely open as soon as Giri attacks the e-file, like this is going to be over, or look how weak his d5 square is. I can't believe it." And like, for other people, that's like a foreign language, I'm sure. But for me, I'm like excited to I can't believe this is, what this world is coming to. I'm going to watch this championship live.
But you're not the only one, right? So there are kids watching, and actually my co-author and business partner, Christine Lyon Bailey, is actually in the chat right now. She just wrote, "Esports is such an important aspect of student social culture." This is what our kids do, right? And so the esports book is less about doing esports because it's video games or it's a cool tech thing. It's about, as educators, it's our job to meet kids where they are and provide them with those opportunities to experience success in school, even if that means bringing something into our school that isn't something that we would traditionally consider a school activity. But there's a resource, actually, and I know Tara is helping run the chat, but I created a resource for tonight, bit.ly/DBC inclusion. And on there, you could see a ton of articles that I've curated along with some quotes about how esports really brings that diversity, equity, and inclusion idea to our school, right? So it gives kids opportunities who wouldn't have a chance to experience success, those opportunities. The research shows that when you provide those opportunities, it leads to better attendance, better behavior, increased confidence, greater engagement and achievement in their school setting. And those are the things we want. But Dave, I think you hit on something else, which is esports isn't just about playing video games. Most of the kids who participate in esports program aren't even gamers. They are kids who are content creators, who are the streamers, who are doing all these, managing the team. These are all kids that are developing these amazing skills that are actually going to help prepare them for the jobs of the future. And actually, one of the resources I included on that link is actually some panel resources. I moderated a panel in EduTech Asia with global leaders where we shared how are we going to prepare students for the jobs of tomorrow and the future of work. And in reality, esports is almost like that new version of the career prep program that we would have in our school before. But instead of it being the traditional automotive or culinary or things like that, we're preparing them for these jobs for tomorrow, the streaming, the broadcasting, content creation, all these amazing skills where they can not only earn scholarships to college, but can actually get jobs in the real world with those skills.
Yeah, it's amazing. Yeah, and thank you, Christine, co-author Christine Bailey, for popping in here. I see Micah, a Reality Bites co-author, is in here. And Kimberly says, "I want to start an esports group at my school." And so that's super cool to hear. And so pick up that esports education playbook. That's exactly why they wrote it, is because they wanted to get this in the hands of educators who want to start this up in their school system, at their site. And this is kind of that like on the ground, boots on the ground level. Like, here's what you do. Here's what some of the challenges you're going to face. Here's how to overcome them. Super practical book.
And for the people out there who are like, I've never played a video game in my life, I don't know how I would even be able to help get this started at my school. You can. because it's not about the games. You don't have to be a gamer. You just have to be a passionate educator who wants to provide students with an opportunity to succeed. The kids know the games. They just need someone to help them navigate the process. And to your point, Dave, we don't even talk about the logistics of working a club until the very fourth section of the book, the last section of the book. We focus on what are the SEL benefits for our students. You know, what is some of the research that's out there? Because I know that when you're hearing video games in school, you're probably thinking, violence in gaming, toxic culture, you know, too much screen time. And so we've gone out and we've done the research and we put it out there and say, hey, it's not we're not saying we're right, but here's what the research actually says. So make the decision for yourself. And also when you're engaging those stakeholders in your school district, here are the facts, here are the numbers. And then the third section, which Christine and I did a lot of work on, which was, okay, if you want to get this started, here are the people you need to talk to in your school district. Here's who you need to get on board. Both of us, have worked in the administrative space. You know, we know you need to get your custodial staff on board, your clerical, your parents, your administrators, your teachers. So how do you start to do that and start to build those allies to be able to get this program off the ground in a successful way?
Yeah, and so that's super important. As I put the comment up from Amy talking about how do I sell this to my admin to get this started. The book has the sales pitch in there. These are all the things that you can take to them and say, hey, this is research backed. This is not just something, we're not just like messing around here. This is research backed, and here's how some key points that you can go with to kind of frame the argument, to frame the discussion to walk in with. I see. Oh, wait. Hi, Donna. I see. I'm meeting Kristen's mom is in the chat. Is that what's going on? Well, hi, Donna. Good to see you. And so, Jesse.
Yeah.
I know that you have brought along some ideas for us, some strategies that kind of pull some of these projects that you're working on together. And so we would love to hear your ideas.
So I'll be honest, I could have talked esports for the entire time, but I was trying to think, what is it that attracts me to these different projects we work on? So, we worked on Reality Bites, the AR, VR, the esports book. I'm working on the Inventor book with Jasmine, Jess, and Faye. And really what I think the common thread is between all the work we do is empowering students and creating more inclusive learning environments for our students. So how do we address every learner? How do we give them those opportunities to succeed no matter what? Now, I think technology is great, but ultimately the reason I love technology is because it provides a vehicle for students to be able to increase those opportunities for voice, choice, and agency. And so really what I want to do was talk about how those technologies apply to this idea of inclusion, right? Esports, obviously, we started talking about it, right? So esports provides that vehicle for those students who necessarily haven't found their place in school to be able to do that, right? We know there are student gamers who might not be the traditional athletes, who might not participate in the clubs that are there, but we share stories in the book from actual administrators who've been doing this work in their schools on what this experience has been like for those kids. And one of my favorite stories from the book is a student in an alternative ed program who was failing out of school and was pretty much, on his last chance to succeed. And ultimately, because they brought in this program, he was able to find his place and thrive. And the family actually flew up to watch him compete in his first competition. And what we realized is it's not just about our kids. Our families sometimes feel very disconnected from our schools. And this has been a generational thing, right? These are one of those problems that kind of live within our families from generation to generation. And so esports is a way to break that cycle and give them those opportunities to come in. Now, switching gears a little bit to Reality Bites. Reality Bites, VR is so hard to describe to someone unless you actually kind of put on a headset and tried it for the first time. But I shared some links to some resources that really explain how VR is really like this empathy machine, right? It's this way of allowing our students to see and understand different races, different cultures, different aspects of society that they may not be able to by simply just reading it in class. When we think about the experiences we've traditionally given our students in schools, it hasn't gotten to that level. So I know Mike is in the chat right now. One of my favorite things Mike has always shared is he had his students do the Anne Frank house experience, where students put on these VR headsets and actually get to experience Anne Frank's house, not as it appears now, like in photography, but actually get to navigate through, pull the bookshelf back, see what it's like, and actually look out the window and see what Amsterdam was like at the time that she lived there. There are artifacts in the in the experience where kids can pick up books or pictures. And as you do that, you hear a young girl reading portions of the diary in Anne Frank's voice. Another experience we love is the 1,000-Cut Journey, which actually puts users in the body of an African-American male. And they experience different portions of his life, from being in a school where a teacher is treating a white child differently and kind of giving them this experience to what it's like to live inside someone else's skin. Another one we love that we actually talk about in the book is Becoming Homeless. And it's about someone losing their job. Ultimately, they go through different phases where they're on like a subway, for instance, with their stuff and how people look at them. And that's not the kind of thing you can explain to someone. It's the kind of thing that has to be experiential. And so in here, I know Micah mentioned before he loves research. I actually put some links to research that they've done that shows how these experiences heighten the learning outcomes for our students.
So I see Micah has thrown the link in here.
I'm throwing so many links in here. I'm trying to keep up.
The Anne Frank house. And Tara has put the link in right here for you. Says that this is the link for the DBC inclusion for the different things that you're talking about and sharing about. So if you're watching, you're listening, whether it's now or on the playback, the link's right there for you in the chat. And so all these things that we're talking about, you can go find the link and go explore this at some point when this is all over.
In addition, as a content creation tool, one of my favorite aspects of all of these tools or technologies is this idea of content creation, because ultimately we know kids do that, whether they're creating TikTok videos or snaps or whatever. Kids love being hands-on and creating content, and both AR, VR, as well as esports provide those opportunities for content creation. Now, one thing you might be thinking, through this equity lens is, yeah, but not every school has the ability to purchase VR headsets right now. And quite frankly, we're in the middle of a pandemic where I don't know Dave, if you pass me a headset right now, I don't know if I'm putting it on, right? That's just where we are.
I'm vaxxed up. I'm vaxxed up, Jesse. I'm vaxxed up. I'm offended by that.
But there are ways to actually give them the opportunity to do this content creation. Mozilla Hubs, for instance, hubs.mozilla.com is a free resource that lets you create VR worlds through your browser window and actually bring people in and share content. We have a workflow we love sharing where, Micah scanned in a pine cone from his backyard using his phone and turns it into an asset that kids were able to hold in VR and make bigger and look at. So even if we're separated by a physical distance, that doesn't stop me from bringing a physical object in to allow kids to look at it and explore. And it's just, there's so many opportunities to allow for for that increase in voice, choice, and agency with our students. And that kind of brings me to that last thing I wanted to touch on before we kind of dive into a little conversation. But looking forward at this book we're working on with Jasmine, one of my big things as an educator, I've always been drawn to initiatives that were focused around student passions, right? So I always loved the idea of 20% time. I loved the idea of Genius Hour. I love the idea of passion projects. And so for those of you who are not familiar with those projects, those are all different ways of creating project-based learning opportunities in your classroom where students are able to accomplish their learning, but driven through things that they're passionate about. So there's a way to allow students to explore on their own the topics you want them to get to, but through a project that allows them to tap into the things they're super passionate about. And ultimately what you find is you have kids starting businesses. In my last school district, we had a kid in 3rd grade who started a sock business online as a result of a Genius Hour project, a 3rd grader. We saw kids building tiny houses. We saw kids winning awards for creating these amazing websites. And kids can do anything. They're already doing it on their own. Why wouldn't we want to harness that power and bring that into our classrooms? And I know right now is not the time to ask educators to do more. Educators are already doing, but what I would tell you is spending a little time on that planning is actually going to save you time and effort and create better outcomes for your students in their classrooms.
Yeah, it's so true. I tell that to people all the time with relationship building and kind of the stuff you do at the beginning of the year. It's like, but you're still not doing any content yet. I'm like, trust me, we're going to fly through content if we can get all this other stuff under control. And so time invested, it's not time wasted. Often it's time invested when we tackle projects like this. I see Jennifer, thanks for popping in the chat, mentioned about how powerful student creation is. Several people talking about loving that creation piece. You mentioned the third grader with the sock business. I have a pet peeve with sock businesses. And I'm going to tell you what it is that my shoe size is size 15. And some of these sock businesses do not stock what I like. I go to Costco. I can't buy my socks at Costco. Everyone's buying these socks. I can't buy Costco. Size 15. Try to see if you can find that. It's not there. It's not on the shelf. So I want to talk to this third grader and see whether they are including my size 15 feet in their sock business. I have to know this.
Kids, and that's maybe you just inspired a kid to start a whole new business for people with big feet. So this is
Wait, maybe thing, everyone else has small feet. Maybe my feet are average.
That might be it. But it's so great to see what students can do. I think we get so fixated on, and trust me, this is not the fault of educators. I think this is a result of just the system we live in, where we're so focused on getting through the curriculum and making sure we're preparing kids, for, standardized tests and things like that. I don't know why I just used quotes. That's what I meant, standardized tests. But, high stakes is what I should have said, high stakes testing. But I think what you'll see is you'll actually find better results as a result of giving students these opportunities than you would by just kind of pushing through, because ultimately we see that when you provide these types of opportunities for students, whether it's through technology such as AR, VR, whether it's through programs such as esports, whether it's through just the traditional like 20-time or Genius Hour passion projects, students show a better ability to remember what they've learned, and they show a greater connection to the learning they've made because it is more hands-on and they own that. So I think that's ultimately what we've seen. And, we've been working with schools who are creating, Ready Learner 1, we've been working with school districts to actually design courses for esports that run at the high school level, with the idea that those courses result in a capstone project that ultimately allows students who are applying to college to say, look at what I've created through my work around this thing that I'm super passionate about. And so there are always going to be ways in your school, whether in the actual classroom itself as a content area project or as a club or extracurricular activity, to give them those chances to thrive.
Yeah, as Kimberly said, give students the opportunity, and then they will shine.
Absolutely.
Give the opportunity. And Melissa, thank you for joining us. And she's talking about these opportunities, and then they're going to become engaged in research. They're going to have pride in their learning project and all those things. And they're going to go down those rabbit holes, right? And that's what we want, is for a student to get on fire about something, want to explore something and take it further and take it outside of the four walls of the classroom and really dive into it and go deep, right? And that's what these passion projects are going to allow for.
If you've ever taken a look, and I'll just give you a simple example of a passion project that a fourth grader or something could do, where ultimately if a student said, I want to build a replica model of, the artifact we're studying or the pyramids or something, but I want to do that in Minecraft. Well, you might think that sounds silly, but if you take a look at the different skills that are involved in doing that and the planning that goes into it and the amount of time and effort, you're going to find that your students are spending more time working on that project than they would have if you had just given them a traditional assignment anyway. And ultimately, they're more engaged in the content and material that they would have been to begin with. So I think when I reflect on my own journey through technology and I think about why I feel so passionate about education technology, I think it's because of how it connects with students and allows them these opportunities.
And the dumpster is going to be less empty at the end of that week.
Absolutely true.
People do these projects, and like it's the day that the projects get turned in, and then go buy the trash can at the end of that week and see what's inside the trash cans.
I'm that kid that spilled the hydrochloric acid on themselves in chemistry. So anytime I could not have to deal with the physical materials, I'm totally psyched about it.
Absolutely, very true. Hey, so now this Ready Learner 1 team, you guys are doing some dynamic work. And you have these different projects, and you have all this professional development opportunities and different stuff. Tell us a little bit about Ready Learner 1, and if someone wanted to get in contact with Ready Learner 1 and to bring you in to work with their teachers on innovation and all these different things, what can they do?
So you could check out our site at readylearner.one, or you could contact me directly, Jesse at readylearner.one. We just launched this exciting initiative that we've been planning for almost a year, this Changemaker EDU platform. We're really trying to, as a result of the pandemic, we really took a look at how professional learning is done for educators and ultimately what the future of that might look like. So you can check out more information about that at changemakeredu.org. Links are going in the chat right now. Thank you, Christine. So we're super excited. We have a really passionate team, and it's just been such a pleasure to work with a group that really wants to look ahead, not just focus on kind of where we've been and where we are, but how can we really improve things, not just for students, but for teachers as well.
So Micah, I don't know. I mean, I'm throwing you up there, Micah, but you were a little behind Christine on that one. I think Christine got to it before
Christine's
you.
Nailing it. She's getting the links in the chat.
Normally I'm not going to like put the second place up there, but today I'm feeling like kind of in just a kind mood, so I put second place up. Christine's got you. I noticed up here that Sean mentioned some Minecraft work that his students did with the Mesopotamia unit. And I've seen several examples of this kind of thing, and like what kids create is just absolutely incredible.
So I actually talk about in one of my recent keynotes, I talked about these students that had remade Toy Story 3 shot for shot. So they actually got all the toys and remade it shot for shot, and they show it side by side. Now, when you think of the time, I think it took them like 7 or 8 years to complete it. When you think about the time and effort that goes into a project like that, even though it's a copy of of something they saw, you have to recognize the innovation and the time that goes into projects like that. Giving kids empowerment over their own learning can only benefit everyone involved, including yourself. And as an educator, I know we are constantly looking for ways to not just improve student learning outcomes, but to save time for ourselves because we're so overwhelmed with everything. Spending the time to redesign some of your traditional projects in this way to make them passion-based is going to help tenfold.
Yeah, absolutely. And by the way, I see Mike has thrown this in the changemakeredu.org. Christine, I haven't seen that link from you. So in this case, I think, I don't know, Micah got one in there. So we're going to give that one to Micah, I think. So now we're on neck and neck on this competition, this link competition.
I think I'm keeping score. It's 2-1, Christine. I'm going to try to figure out something I could throw out there that needs a link so that we'll see if who throws it into the chat first. Okay,
awesome. Very cool. All right. Now, if people would like to get in connection with you on social media,
sure.
Where are the best places to go? What platforms are you on? Kind of where can they get connected?
So on pretty much every platform, Twitter, Instagram, wherever, I'm Jay Lubinsky. So you can check me out there. On Twitter, we are ReadyLearner_1, and on Instagram, we are ReadyLearner.1, O-N-E. So ReadyLearner_1, but then on Instagram, we are ReadyLearner.1. We're working on that. We're trying to balance that out.
Hold on, I have to make a ruling real quick, Jesse. Actually, we're deducting 2 points from Micah for this smart aleck answer right here.
Yes. Okay. Well, actually, it could have been worse. He could have put let me Google that for you. So I feel like Google was at least somewhat respectful.
Yeah. So I also like to give it -2 for Micah. Although he's trying. We are at 2 to -1 right now. Although the Twitter accounts are going in there, but I'd also like to give a shout out to one other place you can find me. I have a podcast, Partial Credit, with my good friends Jeffrey Heil and Donnie Piercy, who is the 2021 Kentucky Teacher of the Year. Recently, we've been doing a series of episodes based where we've been having teachers of the year from around the country come on and talk about their platforms, anti-racism, equity, diversity. We recently, one of my favorite episodes, episode 69, we had Owen Bondano, who was the first transgender person to win Teacher of the Year. And it was one of the best conversations I think we've had. We're super excited. You can check out the podcast at partial.credit. Partial.credit. All right, fantastic. So go check out the podcast, subscribe, become a regular listener. Linda here, this is exactly what I love to hear. I've tried the Good Genius Project, but I'm interested to check out the other platforms too. That's fantastic. That's exactly what we want out of these, is people to get ideas, get inspired, and want to try something new with their school site. And so thank you, Linda, for popping that in. And by the way, I should mention, and Tara's put this in the chat already, but everybody who has entered a comment over on the side, you are now entered to win. And we're going to have 2 winners. So Jesse has 2 books with us. So we're going to give away a Reality Bites, and we're going to give away the esports book as well. So we'll be choosing 2 winners based on the comments, and that's going to be done randomly. So if you have any comment in the side there, you are entered in. And we usually wait a bit to choose. So if you're listening to this in playback, throw a comment in there, and hopefully you'll get it in there before we choose the winners, and maybe it'll be you.
One last thing I'll note about Reality Bites, it is fully immersive. It actually has built-in AR experiences from the cover to every chapter. So that's a cool, you just scan the QR code on the back cover, it opens up a web-based AR viewer, and you could actually interact with experiences right in the air, right through your phone that are in the book itself.
Okay. And so just to clarify, so they don't have to have the headset or anything like that, right? They can just using their phone, they're going to be able to interact with the book. Yep.
Absolutely.
Okay. That is super cool. And it's just like it's like a virtual pop-up book, right? It's like
It's exactly what it is. It's an interactive virtual pop-up book.
Yeah, very cool. That's such a cool feature. And what I can't wait for is for face-to-face conferences to come back, where you're going to be able to show people, you're going to be able to be there at a booth or whatever and show people exactly what happens when they hover their phone over the book. And it's just going to be so amazing.
Yeah, we've been going out to events right up until the pandemic kind of stopped us and the book was released, doing these amazing in-person innovation labs at conferences where we bring out all the equipment. We get educators to actually go through real-life classroom experiences that are modeled after traditional curricula and get them to see how they can leverage this kind of technology in their classrooms. We're really excited to get to work in person with teachers again.
Yeah, that's awesome. As Christine has put the podcast up in here for us. So I don't know. I think I might call her the winner on that contest. I don't know. I'll have to go back and look. Vicky says your book sounds amazing. That says thank you so much. It is amazing. They did a wonderful job with it. And we were chatting a little bit before we got started today. Some face-to-face stuff is starting to book in now. And so, it's not maybe immediately on the horizon, but people are starting to feel optimistic enough to be booking events. And so we can't wait to see you all face-to-face and connect. And we've loved this virtual way of connecting, but we can't wait to get out there and see you all face-to-face too.
Absolutely.
Thank you so much, everybody in the chat, for joining us. We really appreciate you tuning in. Thank you for all your contributions. Jesse, thank you so much for joining us and for sharing all this wonderful stuff. And we will see you same time next week. Thanks, everybody.
Bye.